Welcome to That's a Tap. I'm CT with my man DJ here to break down this aftermath of what was a pay-per-view of epic proportions that delivered to us fight fans. DJ, I'm still shaken.
CT, when did you come back from London? I heard your psyche was in London on Sunday morning, man. Early card, man. The bus leading up to it. I mean, the card delivered. Hey, we're gonna change your name. You're no longer CT. We're gonna call you Mystic Mac. Because you predict these things. And, your predictions are like you don't just pick a winner, you pick the round, you pick the outcome, man. Like I'm gonna um you know take your advice moving forward on putting some money on these fights, because I'll be a rich man if I follow your predictions. But before we get into that, man, like, yeah, crazy card. Main event, was at the center of it, a high level technical fight, but crazy exciting core main event. There's a lot of action, top to bottom. Interesting fact, I think all but one fight in the main card were decisions, um, of different sorts, which obviously definitely prolongs the card because you go the full distance for each fight. Some standout performances, man. Some really, some moments that put you on edge, like that knee that almost popped for Mukayev. Don't know how he didn't tap, but hey, look, we got to talk about the main event, CT, because that's what it's all about. There's a lot of questions going into this fight. Was that a lucky shot, right? Was that just his 5 minutes of fame for Leon Edwards? Can Usman come back? Can he? Will he be gun shy? Is he going to be able to reclaim the title? Right? His age was a factor. There's a lot of questions going into this, and I think we got the answer to pretty much all those questions. It was a fun-filled, entertainment-packed fight, and what I really liked about this is it's how technical it was, and obviously we got to see both guys, showing a lot of skills across those 5 rounds. There's controversy with point deductions, and we'll get into that. But man, just first of all, overall, your thoughts on this card? What did you think?
Yeah, obviously it was difficult to, exceed the expectations, but I think at bare minimum, man, it matched them and it delivered. You could only hope for a 5 round fight of an epic trilogy between these two fine fighters that have been top of the mountain, and we got it. We got a 5 round technical fight, like you said. Different dynamic. Not at altitude, which was
Yeah,
now Leon Edwards' home arena. The crowd
yeah,
delivered like we
yeah,
knew it would. The O2 Arena crowd absolutely created that atmosphere, that buzz. Like I said, I was shaking.
absolutely,
Those nerves that you only get during a legacy championship kind of fight. As a fight fan, you feel it. You don't get that feeling when it's a prelim fight or it's a main card fight. You get it when it's the main event, and it's
absolutely.
for all the marbles. And yeah, I think it was a lot closer than some people are making out to be. And obviously we'll talk further about the points deduction, but I
Yeah,
think it was close. I think Leon
yeah,
Leon Edwards took 3 rounds, and I could
yeah.
really see Kamaru taking two.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. It was a very close fight. At the end of the day, I watched this fight live, and
Mm.
we got up early. I think it was around 10:30 Melbourne time. This fight aired, and I remember as soon as the fight finished, and I was saying, like, look, maybe it was such a close fight, such a technical fight. We may have to rewatch this again. But my
Mm.
initial reaction is that Edwards definitely did enough to win, right? I even went up to the point almost to give him 3 to 4 rounds. Like three, definitely. Maybe there
Yep.
was an argument even for four. Now, the obviously the point deduction played a big part, and that sort of made me hold back on confidently saying, "Oh yeah, yeah,
Mm.
it's definitely going to be Leon who's going to be announced." But when he
Yep.
did, when the announcement came through, it was good to see. And let's not forget, it was a majority decision. There was a judge who scored it a draw,
Yeah.
right? And then there was two who scored it obviously for Usman. I think one of them had him. uh, winning all 4 rounds, or 4 rounds out of five, and the other one also four, but the point deduction making it a draw for that round. So it was quite an interesting scenario when you look at the judges' scorecards. But ultimately, I mean, look, this is my feeling. I think the right person won. I think the person who did more damage, the person who was more active, who was more accurate, precise, and controlled the action. Look, there were takedowns. I think. Look, let's say this. I think for me, let's talk about Leon Edwards and what I saw there in terms of improvements, or what I felt was like, wow, I did not realize how good Leon was in these areas. And straight away, what I want to talk about is the takedown defense, right? I think for him to 15 takedowns were attempted by Kamaru Usman, whereas only 4 landed. And of the 4 landed, there was not much damage done. Even when you saw, one of the strengths of Kamaru Usman is his ability to hold people against the cage and control them there, right? And even small, however small the strikes, like could be like foot stomps, whatever it is, he's good at accumulating those scores. Whereas in this instance, he couldn't. And I think Leon Edwards spoke about it after the fight, where he said, "Look, one of the things that we noticed, and this is how much the game plan was, how intricate the game planning from both teams were, to be honest." Because there were so many adjustments made from Kamaru Usman to make sure that what happened in that second fight is not repeated, right? I
Mm.
think he was
Yep.
very diligent with having his hand up, etc. Anyway, so I think what Leon Edwards said is, we know that once, if Kamaru Usman's able to close or lock his hands behind an opponent, then he is able to control his opponent. And Leon Edwards' aim was, as soon as he got to those grappling exchanges, to ensure that those hands didn't get locked. And I think he did a really good job of it. I was also surprised after the takedowns how quickly he was able to get up. Right, it was very impressive. I think another key thing that I thought contributed towards his victory was his ability to move. Leon Edwards was never a stationary target. No,
Mm.
I did see Usman pressuring a lot of forward pressure, but nothing came of it really, to be honest, right? And one of the reasons was because he was never a stationary target, and the moment he shot in for a takedown, there was some real good adjustment from Leon Edwards to stop that takedown and then get into a clinch and break it up with the knee. Right? I think
Yep.
that was fantastic, which kind of got Usman guessing, because there was one knee, I believe, in the second round that got through flush
Oh.
and
Yep.
rocked him. Right?
Yep.
There was also those head kicks that landed, but obviously partially because, as I said, Usman was very diligent to have his hand up.
Yep.
Man, kudos to Usman to be able to come back, and he still gave a strong fight, and that sure speaks volumes. Usually, when you get knocked out in the way in which you did, it is not always easy to come back and give out a performance as much as you did. Like, I mean, without a doubt, now we can say that Leon Edwards is the best welterweight in town,
Yep.
right? Obviously, he hasn't fought the likes of Colby, etc., but at the moment, and for him to come and do that, with what happened in Utah, it was fantastic. Another question that was always, or another big thing that was always spoken about is, well, Leon keeps talking about this altitude. How much did it really impact? Right, right. I mean, could it impact someone that much that they couldn't? They were pretty much flat. And it seems like the answer is yes, because in this fight there was a decision. It wasn't just quote unquote, like a lucky knockout. It was more a 5 round decision. So you went the distance with this individual, and you came out on top as the better fighter after a loss of points, right? Which is quite interesting. Now I do have a question for you, CT. Do you believe that Usman was gun shy?
A little bit. Yep. I felt
Yeah,
it. And a great question, because I feel like Edwards obviously had the crowd. He was already the champ. And, there's been some quotes. People say, when you're a champ, I think Teddy Atlas said you're 30% better fighter
yeah,
when when you're the champ. That confidence, that belief. I felt like Usman was kind of a little bit shook in terms of, like, it didn't really affect his effort, but it was just
yeah,
he didn't. I don't know if he fully believed he was going to win the fight. I felt like
yeah,
Edwards, he looked a little scared at times,
yeah,
and no doubt it's a hostile environment, and
yeah,
he's getting towards the end of his career. People always do venture to think about, oh, what if I lose? What if
yeah.
I lose? Maybe if he was fighting a little bit scared. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Like I did feel he was a little bit hesitant, right? I wouldn't use the word gun shy because what
Mm,
surprised me the most with Usman's approach is the 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 lack of wrestling. We know that it is his
mm,
strength, and whenever he's fighting a striker, especially, we saw in that George Masvidal first fight, where he just that's his go-to when he's fighting a stand-up striker, he gets him down and draws them, right? We even saw it to a certain extent in the Woodley fight,
mm.
and the fact that it didn't because he was having a lot of success in the grappling department in the second fight before obviously the infamous knockout happened. Now, this could be because look, we don't know, right? They may have had that game plan, but it could have also been because of how difficult it was to get Leon down, and maybe Usman thought, look, I'm not getting anything out of this, right?
Yeah.
Um, he's stuffing my takedowns. Even when I take him, he's coming up. They've drilled as well. Like it's. I'm just expending energy. So maybe let me just step back because obviously this is a 5 round championship fight. Uh, the other side to that also is I don't know. Like this is again, this is a big assumption of mine, but I don't know if part of me felt that Usman was wanting to make a statement in this fight, given
Yeah.
the way he was knocked out. I mean, imagine this, right? You're seated at home, you're somewhere, you're on the UFC website, you're on Instagram, you're on social media. All you see is this. I mean, it's been a year since almost, not a year, but like it's been some time since that knockout happened, but we still see that on repeat, right? So for Usman, I feel like it does play a big part. No, and I honestly feel Usman is one of the strongest minded martial artists in that roster, right?
Yeah.
His mental fortitude is very
Definitely.
commendable, but nonetheless, it still impacts you to a certain extent. And I think for him taking this fight in the UK, and we saw him more wanting to strike with Leon Edwards and wanting to, to a certain extent, wanting to knock him out. I felt like he wanted to make that statement more for himself than anything else to say, hey, you did that to me. Like, look, I came to your backyard, I knocked you out. Right. And maybe that made him abandon the game plan. I don't know. That's a wild assumption. But nonetheless, Usman obviously lost to Leon Edwards. Edwards remains the welterweight champion. Now we can't ignore this part of the fight, the point deduction. What did you think of the point deduction, CT?
Yeah, man. It happened so quickly that it kind of, yeah, it shocked me a little bit, shocked me, and I didn't
Yeah,
quite believe what I was seeing
yeah,
because it was blatant, it was
yeah,
blatant, and
yeah,
I'm glad it was dealt with, quickly. It was, experienced referee,
yeah,
the commentary team, obviously addressed it immediately as well.
yeah.
You just don't like DJ when you're watching these championship fights. I'm not used to seeing that as much. I don't know about you, but
Absolutely.
yeah, we saw it. It got dealt with. It was obvious, but
Yeah,
that did start to create doubt about okay, like the scoring was already tight, and it's
yeah,
like with this deduction now, who the
yeah.
hell knows? Like what was going on? What was going through
Exactly.
your mind?
I mean, look, I was that's as I said. Like, I think if the point deduction didn't take place, end of fifth round, I would have been very confident to say,
Yep,
yeah, Leon Edwards is the winner. I still, again, reiterate that the right person won, right?
yep,
Even with that point deduction, I did think Leon did a lot more to earn that decision. I don't think it was a
mm,
robbery of any sort. Was it a close fight? Absolutely.
yep,
Would it be would it be an atrocity if this decision goes towards Usman? Absolutely not. But I think you know Leon definitely did enough to earn that decision. Now, in terms of the point deduction, look, if that wasn't look to answer your question quickly, there was only one other instance I recall of this happening in a championship fight, which obviously resulted in three more fights taking place in that between those two people. The only quadrilogy in the history of the UFC, Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. So in that first fight, I remember it was a nut shot, and then he was warned, and then straight immediately after he followed up with another blatant nut shot, which resulted in a point deduction for Davison, which resulted in that fight being a draw. If
mm,
that wasn't a draw, right, we would have necessarily not have had that other fight. other fights. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm not. I've seen this point deduction happening in championship fights before. I think for me, uh, if it had been an isolated event, no matter how blatant that friend's grab was, if that was just that instance there, we could have said, no, look, that's a bit too harsh to deduct a point. Give him a warning. However, across the fight, I feel there were some things that were done, that were below the line, right? I look, it's a heat of the moment. It's a fight. You're obviously fighting the best, like it's the best fighting the best, right? I think there were a few more grabs. There was a glove grab. There was an eye poke, which I don't think was intentional. There was a couple of low blows. So there's a lot going on. And by the point this fence grab happened, I think Leon Edwards was already spoken to about the glove grab, etc. So I didn't have really a problem with that point deduction because it's not just for that fence grab, it's just an accumulation of some of the offenses that we've seen so far. Having said that, did I feel there were a couple of protests from Usman for low blows, which were not really low blows? I think so. I think there were a
Yeah,
few that were just on the
yeah.
belt line. There were some that were flush.
I
There were
remember
some that
one.
were on the belt line. Yeah, and look, I think we've got accustomed to Usman. Like, I mean, it could be like you never know, right? It may like impact different people in different ways, and we saw that in the
Mm,
Colby fight as well. Especially that first Colby fight, it changed the course of the fight. Right, it was a liver
yeah,
shot, but then it was called a low blow, and the fight was restarted. Here's also another problem I had with that point deduction. Once the point was deducted, now Usman was actually having a good control. He had actually had his hands locked, and he had good control over Leon on that fence, right?
yeah.
Once the point was deducted, they restarted the fight on the feet. If you recall the previous fight, there was another similar instance when Leon was warned, but then was asked to go back to that same position,
Yep.
right? And there obviously like could that have changed the way that round played out eventually, then impacting the following round. So it was quite an interesting decision by Herb Dean to I think it was great to deduct the point, absolutely valid. Why not start that in that same position, right? Um, but man, look, when we say this fight had it all, that's what we mean. Like it had it all, right? Two high level fight. This is what you get, right? We saw this with Volkanovski, Islam. Now we're seeing this with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. When the best fight the best, it's a technical masterclass, right? You're not necessarily going to have those flush knockouts all the time. It's a chess game. It's how you play it. Like to the blatant eye, people might be thinking Leon's just backing off, backing away, or he's just running to the side, etc. But it's just he's not being a stationary target. He was setting up those
Mm,
strikes. Exactly why I think up to a certain point he was having 100% strike accuracy, right? His significant strikes were 100%, which is amazing and shows that he was picking the shots. He was being very systematic and strategic. So even Usman gave props, right? He said, "Look, fantastic game plan, right?
yeah.
Fantastic game plan." So, man, look. At the end of the day, now Leon Edwards is the king of the welterweight division. Here you go, see, did $1 million question. What's next?
You know, yeah, just to sum up, I agree with all your points you hit, and I think we were treated. I got no issues with how the fight played out, and in terms of it delivering meeting our expectations. Um, but now, deservedly so. He's king of the mountain, welterweight. But boy, I'm still excited, DJ, because the competition is still there. It's elite. Conor McGregor is going to be fighting at 170, right? So Hamzat, or should
Yeah.
we say Cumshot, according to Colby
Colby.
Covington, the man on
Yeah.
screen waiting. I'm going to say something controversial, and you might like this because I know you're a Colby fan, but
Yeah.
I'm going against the narrative that he does deserve this title shot, and I think he does. I think he does
Yep.
deserve it. He was obviously chosen. He's the backup. He flew
Yep.
there. He cut weight. And yes, he hasn't fought DJ for over a year and a half. I
Yep.
understand that. But John Jones didn't fight for 3 years, was given
Yep.
a title shot. Now, obviously, I'm
Yep.
not saying he's John Jones, but, Colby, I don't think it's to do with anything how active a fighter is. If they're skilled and they're good enough,
Yep.
you can make them the number one contender because his last fight he proved he's among the best.
Yep.
and he almost beat Kamaru Usman as well. And
Yep.
he has that track record. And I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
regardless, he's gonna have to fight some good competition. You know.
yep. I like it, man. I like where you're taking this. Look, let's just talk about one person and like put that aside, because let's be honest, Conor McGregor is always going to be that X factor. If Conor McGregor wins a fight at
Mm,
170, doesn't matter against who, and if he calls for a title shot, we know that'll happen. We know the UFC will be up for it. We know whoever the
mm,
opponent is, knowing the amount of money they're going to make, we're going to be up for it, right?
yep.
Now, talking about contenders in the welterweight division, another fight that I want to try and sideline is that we saw Islam Makhachev call out for the 170 title fight in Abu Dhabi. I hope, look, Dana confirmed that's not going to be the case, but yeah, again, another fight that doesn't necessarily make sense at the moment, right? He just defended his belt against another person who stepped up on to another weight class, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding that fight. It was not a shutout. It was not a dominating performance, right? So I think Islam still needs to take on a really good contender and defend that title for him to be able to then establish himself as a solid lightweight, dominant lightweight champion, maybe even one or two before asking for a title shot at 170. I feel right.
Yep.
In terms, so once we take all of that off, we look at the welterweight contenders, right? Look, without a doubt, next in 2 weeks' time, we have a fight happening in Miami. George Masvidal taking on Gilbert Burns. Right? There can
Yes.
always be an argument. The winner of that can fight for the title, right? Especially if it is Masvidal. The reason is there is a lot of
Mm.
history
Oh.
between Masvidal and Leon, the three piece and a soda. Right? Um,
Yep.
Apologies. Yeah. And then also the other one is Gilbert Burns. It's another fresh matchup, right? Um, the last time, if Usman had won both those guys, it would have been just because to be honest, if Usman is champion, the Burns Masvidal fight really is somewhat a pointless fight, because if Masvidal wins, you can't really make an argument to do that third fight because Usman dominated him. And then
Yep.
Burns as well got dominated, although one fight. So maybe there's an argument he can fight that person again. But Leon Edwards now won. Definitely, the money fight will be that Masvidal fight, and then we got the Burns. Obviously Burns has done his due diligence too, right? He's fought some contenders. He fought Hamzat, the firework fight. Then he beat Neil Magny, and now he's fighting Masvidal. If he were to beat him, there's a good case to be made that he also deserves to be up there for that fight. The other guy who's in the mix is Belal Muhammad, right? He
Yep.
fought Leon Edwards, let's not forget. And then there was that eye poke that unceremoniously ended that fight, right?
Yeah.
Having said that, Leon was dominating that fight up until that point, right? Now, has
Yep.
Belal Muhammad, got better since then? Absolutely. I think since joining hands with Khabib in terms of training, I think
Yep.
we saw a Belal Muhammad we have never seen before in that Sean Brady fight, right?
Mm.
But in
Yep.
terms of, if you really look at it, when now we come to Colby, right? Obviously, Kamsat's there too. Kamsat's there, but Kamsat really, last person he fought was Kevin Holland, and he missed weight. He missed weight as well. So
Oh.
there's a lot of controversy. If he's able to make 170 consistently, if he can show that, honestly, I feel like he should maybe fight once at 170, a top contender, and then get the title fight. But again, Hamzat's one of those people like McGregor who's got that it factor, who's got the hype behind him. So if he's making that 170, they'll be willing to do that cut, the fight.
He could be
Now
backup. Like
it
someone's got
could
to
be,
be backup. And
could be, yeah.
yeah. Yep.
And then we got Colby, right? Colby, to your point, to be honest, I agree with you. I think you can't really say he's undeserved for the fight, right? He did do a quick turn. There's a lot of argument that he won that second fight with Usman. He was winning that first fight with Usman, and maybe the ref shouldn't have stopped it, right?
Mm.
Remember the low blow, which wasn't really a low blow. All that changed the course of the fight. So there was that. Then he did a quick turnaround after the second Usman fight and fought George Masvidal and beat him quite dominantly. Then there was a
Yep.
legal controversy that was going on. There was some legal cases going on which prevented him from obviously taking part in fighting. So which is also which needs to be considered. To
Yep.
be honest, when he fought Masvidal, he was higher ranked than what he's now. I think he's 11 at the moment, but at that time, right? So when you look at competition each person's faced, I think Colby actually can lay claim to the fact that, look, I beat like a higher ranked opponent compared to some of these other guys who are asking for this title, right? I
Mm.
mean, Kevin Holland is not one. Kevin Holland is 170, but they didn't really have that fight at 170, and he's not even a top 10 contender at the moment. Sean Brady again, was up and coming, not to the caliber of Masvidal at the point when Colby fought him. So yeah, look,
And let's
especially yeah,
Yeah, I'll quickly add, let's not pretend like the UFC, yeah, it's a business, like Colby keeps saying. Let's not pretend that they don't give preference to people who are easy to work with,
correct,
negotiate with. They like people who are easy to negotiate with. They like people that stay ready on a moment's notice. You can call them company men or whatever, but
yeah.
that's what they do. They'll give you a preference. If you're difficult to negotiate with, or you slander their name all the time, or you're always haggling over extra money, maybe they turn the other way. What do you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely, man, absolutely. And then I guess like the fact of the matter is Dana White has confidently said Colby is next. Leon is not agreeing with that.
Mm,
I think he wants a Masvidal fight. But think of this as well, right? Like, how
yeah,
do you let Masvidal fight Leon if Colby already beat Masvidal?
yeah,
Do you know what I
that's a
mean?
great,
He lost to
what,
my Masvidal. You know what I mean?
what a
Um,
point.
Look, but at the end of the day, look, and then again, you can apply the Conor McGregor formula, right? None of that applies. you know, you just walk into a title fight. I look, part of me, uh, just for the fun of it, just for the thrill of it, would like to see Conor McGregor slide in. It'll be interesting. It's not a
But
favorable matchup, absolutely
is it
not, man. I think,
is it really all just trivial though, DJ? Because he's gonna, let's say he runs through Colby, the other guys are gonna get their chance. So
yeah,
why is
absolutely.
it so much like who's next? Shouldn't it be like, okay, I'll wait my turn, let
I'll tell.
Leon defeat Colby, or if Colby wins, then I'm the next dude to step in. Like they're
I'll
gonna
tell.
get their shot.
I'll tell you why, right? Let's say from Masvidal's perspective, Masvidal's more of a striker, right? He's fought Usman already. He's fought Colby already. We all know how that went. So for Masvidal, probably where he is at his
Mm,
career now and his age, he feels Leon Edwards, who's a fellow striker, is his best bet to try and claim this title,
yeah,
right? So if that opportunity is right in front of him, he'll definitely run that narrative of the three-piece and soda to try and get that fight.
yeah,
Burns is a game opponent, man. Like Burns is actually one of the toughest opponents in that welterweight division, to be honest, right? I think, to be honest, I feel Burns will emerge victorious. We don't know, we thought about that we thought the same with Ben Askren, and then we all know what happened. Masvidal landed that knee, so fight game's very interesting. But yeah, look, I think everyone probably looks at this as the best possible chance for us to be able to win a title is Leon. I think Colby feels the same because Colby's fought Usman twice. And the best possible case for all these top welterweights who've already fought Usman and came short is Leon winning, and which he did. Right.
yeah,
Look, I'm gonna if I were to gun to my head, if I were to say, given how confident Dana White is on this, I'm just gonna say it's gonna be Colby. Colby's gonna be next.
yeah, yeah,
And to be
100%.
to be very honest, I feel that's a tougher matchup than Usman for Leon Edwards.
Yeah, good
Because
cardio.
Colby brings a different kind of pressure compared to
Yeah,
Usman. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Um,
Yeah, we agree on this one, and
yeah,
which is different. But yeah, I think I look forward to that fight. I really do. I'm
man,
really
I
not
will too.
interested in the Masvidal thing. I mean, I've
Yeah, like
seen
because
he's disappointed me, and Usman defeated him,
yeah,
and Rocky just defeated Usman twice. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And he lost to Colby like in one side, in a one-sided manner. I think.
yeah,
Look, from Leon's perspective, it's a good money fight, right? For him to get that fight, he makes some good money, which is good on him. Obviously, he's a champ. Look, as a champion, he will have a little bit of say in it, right?
mm,
But you made a valid point before, champ or not. If you're a company man, if you're willing to work well with the company, you definitely hold. You'll definitely be held in their good graces, and we've seen that. Hey, here's a quick one. I know we're going to go into the core main now, but before that, what surprised me after the fight, all right? Let me say this: classy, conduct by both champion and contender. Both Usman and Leon Edwards were very respectful, very classy. Especially Usman in defeat was extremely classy. But what surprised me is I was thinking, look, given what he was saying leading up into the fight about he's done it all, and he's now had two shots at Leon, and to get back to there is going to be a little bit of a journey, right? And given he wants more family time, I was expecting him to say, "Look, thanks guys, thanks for the ride. That's it." But I'm surprised. We'll go again. So what do you think's next for him?
Yeah, of course. Great question. And I've been hearing, obviously his knees and that
Hmm.
contributed. His health may not be as good as, it was, and only he'll know. But, he is getting on in age.
Yeah.
But remember we talked about in our preview, our wise thoughts came out with the
Yeah.
Africa
Yeah.
DJ. There's still, and he's been talking about legacy. So he lost the belt, but he's still got, I think he feels like he's still got more to give in
Yeah.
terms of the sport, the legacy. And I think maybe just being that former champ and still being active is important for him,
Yeah.
and being an ambassador for Africa,
Yeah.
and planting a flag in Africa, and
Yeah.
taking a big event over there could be something that really keeps him motivated, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, maybe another rematch with Colby. Let's say Colby wins, then he gets to slide in again, and it's like, let me win
You
my
hit the
belt back off him.
you hit the nail on the
Yeah,
head, man. Like I think it all is dependent on how everything plays out, right? I think maybe this Africa part is a big one. Also, Usman, the performer he is, the fighter he is, the competitor he is. I don't think he wants to leave on
yeah,
a losing note. He probably wants to win under his belt. He's extremely talented, extremely skilled. We saw that. We saw someone to be able to come and perform like that after being knocked out by the same opponent, cold, in your
yeah,
own country, right? That speaks volumes of who this person is as a fighter. I think, look, like you said, if Leon were to lose the belt, Usman's right back in the mix, right? Because anyone Leon were to lose to, like all these guys were talking about, other than Bilal Muhammad, have fought Usman and have lost to Usman. So Usman can make a claim, hey, I beat that guy twice. Right now he has the belt. Let me have another
yeah,
go at him. And I think the UFC will oblige, right?
yeah.
Um,
When you're near the
look,
top, you just never know what could happen. Let's say Leon has to pull out last minute, then
yeah,
there's an interim title shot on the line, and
yeah,
maybe he steps in as a backup. You just never know. Like you said, maybe you stay around for another year. He could probably take the next 5 months off, 6 months
yeah.
off,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I mean, I do think we'll see Usman fight again. If anything, it'll be in the same card as Leon Edwards. I feel he'll fight again. To be
yeah,
honest, I think that Africa one definitely keeps him motivated too. I think he's doing a lot of work in Africa in terms of building, institutes there for up and coming fighters. Imparting knowledge. Creating platforms for them to perform. So I think he's definitely invested a lot in Africa and the sort of the mixed martial arts aspect of Africa. So I do think if
mm,
the UFC were to go there, and which Dana White is very adamant about, I think it'll be a very impactful, very big. It'll be an impactful thing if Usman is in that card fighting in Africa, the first card in Africa, and it's a huge thing. Um, yeah, man.
yeah,
Let's wait and see. Look, we never know how this things pan out, so we'll wait and see what happens next. But yeah, we wish all the best for Usman, man. Like, I mean, I don't know. Do you think this loss or these consecutive losses to Usman, sorry, to Leon Edwards, tarnishes Usman's career or his
no,
accolades,
no, not at all.
legacy? No,
No, not at all. Because it wasn't an
absolutely.
embarrassment at all. It was a really close
Mm.
fight. He won
Yep,
2 rounds.
yep,
Um, and of course he got rattled a little bit, but he stayed strong.
yep,
He didn't really look like he was about to get finished. So
yep,
he took some damage,
yep,
and he seemed to take it well. I just
yep,
think his body's just not where it was at, which is fair. There's a lot of growing on that, a lot of big
yep,
fights, a lot of championship
yep,
fights, and he's getting older. He doesn't
yep,
move as well. You made a great point about
yep,
Rocky's movement. He didn't look as quick as he used
mm,
to.
yep.
I just think, yeah, maybe just age and attrition's coming into play.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
agree, man. I agree. Like, I don't think he's I don't think his legacy got tarnished one bit. I think the Usman era will always be remembered. To beat a then dominant Tyron Woodley, who had just destroyed Darren Till, right, and was going into his next defense against Usman. I don't think anyone gave Usman a chance, and Usman dominated Woodley. And then ever since then, it's just been, other than the Colby fight, they've been one-sided dominations. They were never
Yep.
close fights, right?
Yeah.
And so he made a statement. He defended the title, I think 5 times, and then obviously lost to Edwards. He does hold a win against Edwards too. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
So I don't think it gets tarnished. I think that part of that will be remembered, and I think if he were to get back in the win column, he's back up there again in the conversation. He's definitely, arguably, one of the greatest welterweights of all time,
Plus, he
alongside
could
GSP.
sell. Yeah, he could lead pay-per-views still. I'd be excited to see him and a Hamzat, or him and a
Whew.
um,
Hey,
yeah. We might see him and Connor maybe one day. We might see him and I wouldn't mind seeing him and Diaz. Some
yeah,
point.
hey, him
There's
and
yeah,
him and Amsa, man, like that's a big fight. That's a massive fight. You don't need belts, nothing. People will
yeah,
tune in, like, you know what I mean. And that's
yeah,
a tough fight for Amsat,
yeah.
right? And Usman's a strong wrestler, right?
Co-main, like
Man,
you hit when you said that they'll both be on the same card.
yeah,
What about a Leon Colby? But then you have an Usman Hamzat
Amsat,
as
yeah,
as the
man,
co-main, as
take
like
my money.
as maybe the next guy to get another shot again.
Take my
You
money,
know,
man. Up the
yeah.
pay-per-view price for inflation. I'll
Oh,
still give you my money. Do
or
you know what I
Connor,
mean? Like,
like you
yeah,
said, like
con man.
yeah, what
I
would be
don't.
bigger, a bigger
I don't
pay-per-view
think.
than that?
I don't think Connor will fight Usman for a contender fight. I think if he were to beat Michael Chandler,
Yeah,
he'll go straight to
he'll
the title fight. So,
yeah, yeah.
but
They want
yeah,
to cash in because I think Connor's getting older,
yeah. Look,
and
Connor's not gonna be around for long. I don't think so.
yeah. Just quickly before you move to the next, what did you make of the Connor USADA sort of
Man,
claims?
it's just a bit controversy. I look, we look. Obviously, it all started with McGregor was on a interview with Elwani, and he just said, "Look, we have a meeting scheduled, and I just need to do two positive, sorry, two, uh, I had to clear 2 tests, right, and then I'm back in the mix. I
Mm,
can fight." Whereas USADA came out and said, "Hey, that's not the case. You've got to be in the pool for 6 months." Right? And we don't have any meeting schedule. So that kind of started this whole thing where McGregor felt he was being painted as a liar. And obviously, we know how if anyone tries to tarnish his reputation, we know how hard he goes against them.
oh,
Dustin Poirier knows it well. And look, so he probably, like, it could be miscommunication, right? I mean, he's ready to give the test straight away. So I think even if it were the 6 months, they were probably looking at a man. Look, I feel like they will end up fighting at Madison Square Garden, right? Madison Square
mm,
Garden has always been known for some big fights, right? Let's look at the landscape of things, right? 6 months from now is around November, right? We have fights booked till July. There's no way they're fighting in July, right? August, okay, yeah, that's out. There's no real talk about who's fighting. We don't know, right? Maybe Leon will be defending in August. We don't know. September, again, nothing much. October, Abu Dhabi.
yep, yeah. As DJ just frozen up, but you'll get back in here, and yeah, there's a huge card to come. A lineup um, throughout this rest of this year. We've been spoilt so far, and it's just been a very magical start to the year so far. Dana was asked, obviously, the post fight. There's so many locations that they still want to get to. France, um, it looks like Sweden. They want to get to Canada now that they've been back to England again, I think for the third time. And he's also talked about wanting to go to other parts of
He's
England as
back. He's
well.
back. He's back.
Um, his DJ's back. Yep, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. No, I was saying. Where was I? What was I saying? Oh yeah, the Conor McGregor one. It's going to be. I feel like it's going to be Madison Square Garden.
Yep. Yeah, I was just saying Dana was asked, all these locations he still wants to go to, Spain,
Yeah.
Sweden. He was asked about England again, any other locations possible. He said fight nights.
Yeah.
they're getting too comfortable at the apex,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Which is good for us, right? I mean, like it's better when you look at the crowd and and all that. So yeah, man, let's see where it happens. But I think the fight will happen this year. I just hope there's not unwanted politics, and they can sort this out, and then we can see that fight. It's an exciting fight, right? I'm also excited for the actual tough season, just to see how it went and sort of the interactions between those two.
yep, yep, definitely. Just hold that thought for a second.